How long does Billy Napier get before the fans in Florida start calling for his head? A year? Two? I
Yeah,
mean,
2 or 3 years.
2 years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah, two.
Uh,
Yeah,
so it's the same 2 or 3 years that pretty much everybody gets at this point.
yeah,
It seems to.
pretty much.
So,
If you're the head coach of Florida or Florida State or Miami, you're going to get skilled players just by osmosis
osmosis,
because
yeah.
that's how many there are in the state. You have to concentrate on creating an offensive and a defensive line rotation, particularly on defense, that sustains both sides of the football like that. Mullen never did that. They had great skill players, but if you can't protect the quarterback, if you can't attack with just the four defensive linemen up front in big time college football, then you're always going to be struggling to either stay with the other team or hang on to a lead. And the level of hubris that Mullen had, and if you look through history, not just football, all leaders who fall usually fall from this amount of hubris. Like, I'm the smart guy and you're not, and that brought him down. In this case, because he refused to believe that his offense couldn't work regardless of which players he plugged in there. And clearly it wasn't working.
Well, coaches are all about ego, and as we all see here, it sometimes gets the best of them. But they all have it. They all have that I am smarter than the rest of the guys, and I'm going to show you how. And they come up with different offenses. We all saw what and schemes, and we all saw the what Spurrier would do, that famous game where he rotated quarterbacks, things of that nature, the fun and gun. I mean, you can do. There's always looking for innovative ways. But like Sam said, hey, sometimes it just goes back to the basic meat and potatoes. You have to have a strong offensive front and a strong defensive front, and it all starts there.
well, with
I think when you look at Florida at its best, I mean, obviously most people will look, Danny Werfel and Tim Tebow and all the skill players there, and there's tons of skill players in Florida. But look at those defenses. Look at the athleticism on the defense, particularly up front. I think those are the factors that really made Florida into a championship, SEC national championship type of program, is the ability to recruit those kind of players. And if you don't have them in the SEC, you're going to get exposed.
Yeah, here's something that caught my eye, and this is from gatorswire.usatoday.com. It is their Gators section of it, and the writer on it I'm going to look at is Tyler Natuno, but just a couple things here. A former assistant under both Saban and Swinney, Napier compiled a 39-12 record in Lafayette. Since a 7-7 finish in year one, he's gone an elite 32-5. Can you really call the coaching in Lafayette and a 32-5 record against that level of competition elite?
Yeah, if you're a Gator fan, you can.
Okay,
because that's
there it is.
What most writers who are writing about Florida are. I remember the national championship game in Glendale, Ohio State and Florida, and Ohio State's quarterback Troy Smith won the Heisman. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the end zone, which is where the press box seat was, and they're right in front of us. They're like on about the 10-yard line, and he rolls out to the right, and he's looking downfield, and the backside defensive end chases him down, grabs him, and throws him on the ground. And you all have seen this look. He stood up and looked at the guy like, where the hell did you come from? As the quarterback, he's supposed to know where those guys are, but that guy's not a factor in this play, except at Florida under Spurrier, they were, because and occasionally under Meyer, they were, in terms of the athleticism, as you mentioned, on the offensive and defensive lines. If you have that kind of player up front, that's when you can say that you're going to become an elite program. Look at who gets drafted out of Alabama after every year. 3 of their starting offensive linemen every year go in the first round.
Well, here's part of that elite issue that I want to bring up here, and I'm going to go back to the article, which is, I kind of found this paragraph interesting. Though Napier doesn't bring Power 5 head coaching experience to the table, which of course all of the insiders say Gators have got to have, they're definitely got to have that, or they're not getting a really good coach. He's a big-time recruiter and seems to be the CEO type Florida desperately needed in this cycle. A CEO type? I mean, to Sam's point, you're going to get the great talent no matter what happens. You're going to drop your hat, and you're going to get great talent. Does Florida need a CEO type? Don't they need somebody who's going to win games? Because in my opinion, if he's not competing for the SEC championship in year 2, they're going to call for his head.
Yeah, it all remains to be seen. I mean, there's two schools of thought here: somebody who's got Power 5 experience and somebody who came up a different way. Now, Napier had Power 5 experience on the staffs of Alabama and Clemson, but he's never been the head coach there. It all remains to be seen. I mean, he seems to come from a great pedigree. He seems to be a pretty good leader of men. So we'll see if he can adjust to the expectations that exist at Florida. If he and his staff can recruit the kind of players to win at Florida.
Well, would you agree with me, though, that if he's not competing for the SEC title at the end of year 2, they're already going to call for his head? He's got to be right there for the title. And if not actually in the championship game, he's got to be there right until the last day.
Yeah, that's the way it is at Florida these days, for sure. You're on the fast track. You've got 1 year grace period. Maybe after that, all bets are off, and you've got to be going for the brass ring. The problem is Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas yet to come. This is a swamp, no pun intended, of talent everywhere, and it's tough going, man. It's not like it was in the 90s. This is going to be a tough deal to win the SEC for a lot of teams, and there's going to be some awfully disappointed fans and coaches and players who end up 8-4 and think they've failed.
With the talent Gators have, should they? Go ahead, George.
No, I was going to say, and to Joey's point, it's also now that we talked about earlier. Now you've got the transfer portal, and you've got that to deal with, which you didn't have before. So that talent pool might get a little thinner. So you've got that dynamic along with everything else that they have to deal with, and high expectations.
Do the Gators have the talent now? I mean, right now with Mullen leaving, to go for that SEC title game in 2 years? I mean, does Napier have sitting there what he needs?
He needs to recruit linemen on both sides of the ball, and I think Richardson is a good quarterback. I think that he can play some. So it'll be interesting to see who he adds quickly as a complement to that. Remember, if you're only recruiting guys with Power 5 experience, the Gators never get Billy Donovan.